Since the NAL's inception in 2020, only a few teams have remained long enough to establish anything resembling a rivalry. For SSG and OXG, it technically extends even further back than that, so we end Playday 1 with a game that reaches very deep into the legacy bag, because if you recall, OXG used to be a little team called Reciprocity that these guys were also on. That's Laxing, that's Foxay, I'm Jacob, and just out of curiosity, do you guys know how many times Oxygen and Spacestation have faced one another all time overall? If you had to put a number on it.
Like since we were playing?
No, just since OXG and Spacestation
OXG.
were like two orgs
22.
playing each other. How many games do you think they've played?
20.
20?
Well, yeah, 22.
22?
22.
It's 18.
Ah.
So
I'm close.
Lax is closer, but it's still, I mean, that's over best ones. It's mostly over all domestic competitions too. Like, I think the only times they ever would have faced each other maybe once or twice in an SI, and that would have been about it.
We sucked.
Yeah.
And then you sucked more because you were on that team
yeah,
longer.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the teams that always beat us, that our hardest time, was always SSG and Dark Zero. They're always so strategic.
Dark Zero, like, I think we went into that just knowing they were going to, like, they could look like the absolute worst. And even last stage, they weren't looking that great. And then they go into OXG and then
they
just
really bounced back.
Them. Just smoked them.
Yeah, so overall, Spacestation has really dominated just the head-to-head historically against OXG, but they're trying to right that ship now and at least try to get that historical head-to-head back a little bit more in the win column. But it's going to be a tall task because Spacestation has done a lot of revamping on their end, specifically with the addition of one more hammer lifter to this roster.
Yeah, and I said it here, you know, it's the same station, just a different crewmate. Obviously, you see Benja there. They did replace Iconic, as we talked about earlier, due to that injury. But again, there's nothing that can't be said about Benja here that hasn't already been said more than enough throughout his career. He's a phenomenal player. Makes perfect sense why we find him here on this SSG roster after his departure through G2. And even then, like, his historic history throughout his career, it's not a lengthy career, but what he's done in that career throughout has been truly tremendous in winning SI specifically.
It's only been a 3-year career for Benja, and he's already won a world championship.
Yep.
He's been on multiple rosters. I mean, just this sheet speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously see him coming in with Heroic at Yangcheping and Charlotte, and then the G2 is like when it immediately transitioned, he ends up immediately winning that SI and then placing a top 8 at the Copenhagen Major, top 4 at Atlanta, top 4 at the 6th Invitational.
Yeah.
Horrible at Manchester. But I mean, all in all, I mean, he's had a really good history so far through his career and now finds himself on SSG.
Yeah, and I think joining SSG is somewhere where he can really come into his own, really become his own person, not just in the game, but outside of the game.
Yeah.
Really build his personality up. He's around a great group of guys to be able to do that. But like I've been saying since the start of the season, I think SSG is the perfect home for Benja to become himself and the player that he wants to be. But I think the rest of SSG, it takes a lot more from them to be able to mix up the roles, make him feel comfortable. And so far, that's what we've been seeing is Benja is usually at the top of the leaderboard alongside Ashton, and the rest of the players are the ones that always have to follow suit.
Yeah, and here are those stats as you're seeing right there. That was actually from EWC. So this was his first debut with SSG at an international event on LAN. And once again, he is performing. I said it in the beginning of this. This is the reason why SSG picked him up to replace Iconic, because he can be that fragging power that SSG so desperately needs.
He's jumping into a culture that Callout has already long established so far. He was a big participant in everything that Spacestation did over the offseason. It was EWC, they're champions, a wildcard restart. Yep. So Benja's already gotten some familiarity with this team. So we dragged him and Ashton into the same Discord call for a couple minutes to talk about what this transition's been like.
My name is Ashton, and I play for Spacestation Gaming. During the offseason, obviously, we got Benja, and then, you know, qualifying for EWC. That was a big step to make with him at EWC with Benja, just to really get him slotted in for the main goal of, you know, the main tournaments like NAL.
We've basically just been focusing on, like, you know, getting better and better. Not so much about, like, the results, but just, like, improving every day.
The way he's adapted to the team, you know, there's been a lot of funny moments. We brought him to Utah, where SSG is located, and we took him, like, at the air show and stuff like that. He's a funny guy, too, when he opens up. That's the master right there.
I think, like, what makes SSG unique is, like, the way we do things out of game. I think it's, like, really unique compared to other esports teams. Basically just the way, like, the brain function. I think, like, it's best that you go to the gym, so we go to the gym, we meditate.
I think this NAL stage, just on paper, is a lot more closer than what people think, you know, with the roster moves and stuff, so it's kind of unpredictable. Obviously with Sonics getting Troy and stuff like that, that's a big move that happened. I'm low-key glad that all these teams are making roster moves because, it keeps us in the back in the shadows, kind of as the dark horse, so.
We don't have any rivals. Like, we're just looking every team as like equals, and just take one game by one game. Like, I think like we play OXG first, so I would like to beat OXG because it's the first game. So that's what I'm focusing on right now.
SSG's goals going into the stage, I think it's just honestly to translate what we've had into practice into the game day. Doesn't matter like really what scores, or just the outcomes of our games, because no matter what, you can go 0-9 and still make the major. And that's not something that you want to look for, but it's the blessing that's there. I think we made a lot of growth on how we contend on game day and how we really don't let the pressure get to us. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, the space station is still in orbit. It just has a different astronaut on board, and he comes from a completely different space agency. Benja Master, hailing all the way from Denmark, looks to be the piece of the puzzle the space station are hoping can take them further than they did when they played with Iconic in Manchester. We obviously heard about the reasons why Iconic played the way he did. He got surgery. He's doing better. He's on the mend. We'll hopefully see him back at some point. But Benja on SSG, dude, that's 2 SI winners on one space station, again, for the first time in a while.
And I love it, and especially for Benja leaving G2. Like, I know that team environment on G2 compared to SSG, no other team, once again, even comes close to SSG's fundamentals and like what they do outside of the game. It's insane.
Yeah, and I really think the more time that this team has together, it's just going to blossom. Still, Ashton is still a very young player, but it's not only going to blossom to 2 rookies, it's just going to give them a lot more experience together. And I think once they have that just experience all together and they're able to just go forward, it's really about the rest of the players and just slotting themselves in to how they can make it all connect. I know from EWC there was some questions on who's playing what roles after losing Iconic, who's going to be IGLing. I think they all have so much potential at who can do what. It's just about finding the best course of action and sticking with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope and persistence on Space Station that makes them a really formidable foe. But on the flip side, OXG are still going through a transition period, and we're not sure how it's going to end up. Fox, for one thing, there's a notable lack of one clap master on this team, and instead we got Hat in his place.
Oh, he is the clap master, but Dream will be being sent off of OXG. Hat will be taking his place, and I really feel like this is a deciding factor of OXG really trying to change their identity of everybody needs to be able to make a play, everyone needs to be able to just get a kill. If you see an opening, you take it. It's almost like OXG is trying to play similar to how the older SSG was just, you see a gap, you take it. And it doesn't really look like there's necessarily one leader on the team either. Everybody's just trying to bounce off of each other and make it work as best as they can. But my issue with that is losing Dream also loses a big piece of accountability. And unfortunately, I was a part of this. Lax wasn't a part of this because you left the team before then. But
you kicked me. I didn't leave. You kicked me.
For 2023, OXG has a very strong early showing in all of their tournaments, all of their seasons, very strong. But unfortunately, it just dips off. 2023, hot starts. Loses LCQ, doesn't make it. Last stage, they had 5-0. They had the best starting record out of any team in the NAL, and obviously Beast Coast ended up winning 5 towards the end, so they tied it, but that's still a huge lead. And to then go to playoffs, lose an LCQ, oh my God, what's going on? And then they go to EWC, they play against SSG, their first game against SSG in the open quals, smoke them. Second game, they get smoked. It's just who is running the ship at forcing everybody to be better. I had a chance to speak to Gomez. He said EWC was the best that they have looked in since the inception of this team. But unfortunately, I just don't believe it. I don't feel like this team is a top 4 team anymore. Unfortunately, they need to be able to make an event now, show that consistency all the way through, figure out what the problems are. Is it nerves? Is it stress? Or once the pressure's on the line, can we just not finish and close it out? What's going on? OXG needs to figure it out this stage. And this is, unfortunately for me, the last stage where I feel like they just aren't going to start off hot, and they need to either make it or break it. They're either going to pull themselves to this major, or they're going to indefinitely be a bottom tier team.
I'll say this, I think it 100% comes down to lack of experience. One, obviously losing me, that hit Oxygen very hard. Then losing Bert hit Oxygen very hard. Then losing Fox hit Oxygen very hard. You got rid of very veteran players on the roster that showed consistency throughout regular season into LAN. Now you're losing Dream, like you were just saying. That is a huge backbone and a huge staple of your defense backline. You don't have that anymore, so that worries me.
Is them playing SSG on Consulate also going to hit them hard?
So again, for me, especially starting on that defensive half, that was the nice thing about Dream and what the player that Dream turned into is you could rely on Dream in those defensive sites to be your backline, to be that solid support. Now you don't have that. Who is going to pick up on that?
Now, the one thing that OXG does have for all the OXG fans out there is they have so much talent to pull from. Every player on the team can statistically change the factor of a game. But it really comes down to the coaching staff then. It's all up to the coaching staff to be able to mold the players into the players that they need to be. This roster of Gomez, Yogg, and Diaz has been around since the original XSET.
Yeah.
And they always do well, but they've just never crossed that bridge to be a tournament-winning team. And for there to be a difference, I feel like it still has to come from the coaching staff because the players are still all very young.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you say young because I think the longest experience on that roster is a max of 3 years. And when you think of myself or yourself where you have 8 years, 9 years, whatever that looks like, that is insane to think that that roster that we built a long time ago now lacks years of experience.
It's also crazy to think about that considering Berlin also doesn't seem like it was even that long ago, and that's where this original XSET core made it all the way to top 4. But they got to reignite a little bit more of that magic in this one in order to get over a Space Station team that looks red hot with Benja Master coming onto the roster. Who wins? I don't know. We'll let Intero and Jesse tell us.
As excited to see who prevails as you are, Jacob, and frankly, I'm just as curious as well. OXG with a new look, SSG with a new-ish look, trying to beat back expectations that SSG always seems to have thrown on their shoulders, and they brought in a world champion to try and elevate their game. Out of all the teams that we've seen so far today, whether in this matchup or not, what team, Jesse, do you think has benefited the most from the roster moves?
Ooh. It's fitting you ask that now because I think SSG is a very obvious answer to that one. And I probably will say Space Station because obviously they struggled with Iconic. He did not have a very good major performance. And that's not speaking to him as a player. He's been injured. I get that. That's really unfortunate for him. But now you bring in Benja, who not only was a world champion SI MVP, not only is coming over from one of the best rosters that Rainbow Six has ever seen, but also has now performed for SSG. Unlike a lot of the roster moves that we've seen throughout this stage so far, we've gotten to watch Benja play with SSG already at quite a high level. He went to the EWC with them. He was their best player statistically at the EWC. So not only is he a fantastic player coming into this team, but he also has a lot more reps. He's very experienced. So I'm really excited to see how he does now in an official game, stage 1, stage 2. And I gotta say, we got some interesting operator bans to start us off. A clash coming in here. Neither team choosing to ban out the Ying. Instead, it's Capitao and Monty. Both these teams have banned Ying a ton throughout this throughout the stage so far. SSG are no strangers to Consulate. They've played it 12 times this season, banning Ying in a majority of their recent games. And OXG have played Consulate twice this season. They lost both times, but they also banned Ying in both of those games. So I'm looking forward to see if either team wants to utilize that Ying a little bit, if we get to see any of that here in on Consulate. But regardless, should be a fun game. Should be fun to see how Benja does and how these players on Oxygen do.
Yeah, so let me relax a little bit here. Nobody on OXG has a normal name. So
Love that.
Diaz is D Brown, Hat is Buttermilk, Gomez is Spaceship, the boss is Newers, and Yaga is Full Dozen. So I'm just going to get this out of the way and say apologies in advance for what is probably going to be a substandard cast, because it is going to be very challenging for us to actually follow along with what's going on when everybody's got a different name. So bear with us. We're going to try our best.
We certainly will. Fun first day of casting for me. Here we go. Back on Consulate, at least something familiar from the Battleground. We just watched this, obviously, between Luminosity and Los. If you missed it, that was a certainly exciting game. A lot of fun rounds in that one. Hopefully, we'll get the same. We are starting with the Amaru, which had a huge impact in our previous Consulate game, and Ashton already running into the top floor. It's going to be shotgun v shotgun as he plays around this corner, but instead, it's the boss dropping out through the hatch.
Yeah, Nitrocell goes off from Newers, and well, doesn't net anything. Ashton not far removed from that top floor hold. And Hat was flicking very quickly through all of those cameras and gets kicked off by the logic bomb. Fultz on an excellent operator to deal with this. He will be able to spot all that gadgetry quite quickly. He's vulnerable upstairs just in case he gets jumped upon. J90 is there for support. First kill's gonna, whoa, not just first, but first two. Almost a third. As Yaga's the last one standing in that altercation. He takes down Benja not before two from OXG have died. Yaga finished off from J90 above. It's all up to Hat. A 1v4. Benja gets 2 kills and dies. I'd say that's pretty productive. Hat will now seek shelter back in the bomb site, but things are not looking good for him and OXG.
Certainly not. This is a tough spot, especially with the TCSG. It's a good gun, but it's very difficult sometimes to string together multiple kills with low rate of fire, and he's going to need to be doing just that. Has a Nitrocell in his pocket and an Electric Claw as well, if he finds any value in it. We'll see how it goes here inside the bomb site. The main breach not open, but Force will be doing that right now, going for a plant as soon as they find him in the base.
And Ashton finishes it off just as a nice little, he was the period on your sentence. You finished? And then Ashton finished the sentence. Isn't that nice?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it from Ashton.
Nice guy. Where is it that it is so bright? Like everybody's playing in darkness, and it genuinely looks like Ashton is on the surface of the sun. So Ashton, I'm curious.
Maybe he's moved to Alaska.
How do you think the ping is up there?
I would imagine not good. Not only is it geographically far, but I cannot imagine the infrastructure is as good as like mainland US.
Good point.
Thank you.
Well, either way, Benja cracked that one open with his play on spiral stairs, almost netting 3 members of OXG in one fell swoop. Old familiar sounds of the R4C, not in the hands of Ash, but in the hands of Ram instead. And of course, when you're looking at any execute onto that bottom floor bomb site, you gotta bring a Ram. You don't have to, admittedly, but most teams will because it makes the job significantly easier. We have seen this before.
Yeah?
This is a play.
Okay.
And it can get quite cheeky.
What's going to happen here, Parker? Give me the rundown. They seem to be pretty ready for it.
Ashton is... What am I looking at, bro? Come on, man. I'm gonna fry this bozo. And then he yells obscenities when he gets the kill. I think that's typical Ashton, at least from what we've seen.
Okay. I'm excited for it. He's looking for a rappel hook, obviously, at this point. He could toss the C4 out if he sees the rappel starting up. But nobody on SSG is foolish enough to fall for that. They're all going to be moving on to other parts of the map. It looks like it's going to be an admin clear from SSG. And, okay, I guess he went for something that got punished.
Does not work out.
No.
But, I mean, you tried.
You did.
Oh, well. I guess that's the best you can hope for. So, either way, I mean, you gamble on that closet mirror. You gamble on a possible Nitrocell. Does not work out.
He got killed from the roof, so I assume he jumped out of the breach, which was it's a risky move. I gotta say, we talked in the last game about how defender-sided Consulate can be. And for Oxygen really getting torn apart on round 1, now another early death on round 2, I don't want to see much more of this, right? We're seeing this team really bleed a lot of bodies early. Yeah, you know, they're making one aggressive move. It's not the end of the world on this round. It's still super winnable. But in general, that's the type of thing, bleeding these bodies early, that can turn a really defender-sided map like Consulate into one that you really struggle to get any rounds on. And if you can't get rounds on your defense, it might be very difficult for you to get rounds on attack. So important rounds coming up here from Oxygen in the next 5, this one included in that. It's not going to be the easiest here. Spacestation have full bottom floor control. They've worked their buck in. They can make an admin push going through if they want to, but I think they're more focused over on yellow in the CEO window. Yeah, indeed. Fault's right here in the CEO window. So These toxic babes will start to come out, but they're going to need to do a little bit more if they want to deny this plant fully.
I don't really have a lot of time with Jesse. They've only got 35 seconds to be able to pull this one off. There's a swing in from Fultz. He'll breathe in some of the toxic gas amidst the yellow's color. He can't really do anything as his vision is obscured. Forrest there to try to keep this one in tow. In a 3v3, he's punished from the back.
15 seconds.
One kill from Ashton, and now it's up to Benja Master. Right next to each other. Neither of them hold the diffuser. They've got to find these two remaining players from OXG.
5 seconds to go.
Just sitting on that diffuser with a shotgun to run up. Hat good enough for one. He doesn't get the second, but they win the round on time anyways. SSG may be a victim of their own clock management there, as they got that opening pick and then really struggled through that mid round.
So usually what you're doing with the smoke in that position as an attacking team on Consulate is you're working the buck down below and you're trying to deny that play from the smoke with the buck. The buck never really had that much ground though, unfortunately. Benja was below and he kind of opened a lot of like, you know, the breach on the balcony and a lot of ground around there, but he wasn't actually able to stick around and harass that smoke like what you would have wanted to see. Instead, he rotated back up to the top floor and tried to contribute to the kills that way. Meant it was a really winnable round from the smoke on Oxygen, being able to both use the Toxic Babes and then also hit the nice shot when the defuse kit eventually came in through the window. So I like that from Oxygen. Not the most complicated defense, very standard stuff, just with some good smoke play, but it's good enough to get it done. Once defuse gets on the ground, you're playing a very powerful spot with the shotgun. So good to see from Spacestation Gaming. Not the end of the world. You lose one attack on Consulate. It's 1-1. You go to Piano now, but we'll definitely be looking to shapen up that Consulate top floor attack when we get more towards round 3.
It's just a late setup going on as that looks to be the last reinforcement, unless my numbers are off. Nope. We've still got one in back pocket. And a litany of secondary gadgets. Always nice to see. 2 barbed wire, 1 nitrocell, 1 bulletproof cam, 2 impacts, 1 deployable shield. A lot of people seem to forget that barbed wire does damage now.
Yep.
This is something I always kind of thought when I first started playing the game was, yeah, it slows you down, but shouldn't it also hurt? But it never did, and now it does. So it does ticks of damage as you walk through it, which obviously you're going to want to break it apart. You really don't see barbed wire as much as we did, say, 5-6 years ago. It's almost as if it just disappeared from the game. I honestly think nerfing it from the 3 whacks down to 2, and then also nerfing how much it slowed you down, really impacted its ability to show up. Instead, you see nitro cells, impacts, etc. Even fewer impacts, though, because you can't impact trick anymore.
All of that is very true, Parker. And can I also just say,
You may.
this has been some amazing Brava play coming through with Ashton on the IQ. Ashton was sitting on the roof, pinging out the Valkyrie cams as Forrest drove around the map, hacking all of them. OXG are trying to play a defense that relies on some strong information, but all of their Valk cams, he at least hacked 2 of them. I'm not sure what happened to the third. Maybe it got hacked as well. They should have been able to find it with the IQ scanner. But that's a ton of intel that just got stolen away from Oxygen to really now work in the favor of SSG.
There's launching bombs, and now Benja will run on in. SSG needs to be a little quick. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Jesse?
I thought they hacked that cam. Maybe I missaw it, or maybe Benja just wasn't aware.
Maybe they don't need it anymore. Maybe
True.
they just said, you know what? We'll do it without it. Grenade goes in just to try and isolate these players from OXG, keep them off of their position. Fultz with diffuser in hand as Ashton actually gets the follow-up onto who I think is Hat. Ashton blows up J90 in the process, so 2 for 2 on the grenades, working out quite well. I think that's Diaz getting 2 picks. 1 on the diffuser right now, Forrest from down below. And it's Forrest and Ashton as the last 2 remaining. It's all up to the boss. Impossible rotate. No, doesn't want to waste too much time. Just trying to draw out both Ashton and Forrest. Newers will have no real safe harbor here as he hops on the diffuser, then hops off. He's got time to work with. Does he know that there's 1 player down below? Hold on. All right, there we go. Almost seemed like SSG wasn't going to be able to pull that one off. Forrest not really looking that interested to push up, but Ashton's got it covered from down below. Space Station wins the round.
And who says you can't get kills with the new grenades? Ashton fights 2. 1 on the enemy, 1 on his own team. Worked his way in through the top floor there, had some really great control. That's the thing about that middle floor piano bomb site. A lot of people think, gosh, you take piano, there's so much vertical, we need to take all of the top floor. But it's surprisingly difficult for the defenders to actually deny because there's so many plant spots down inside of the bomb site. You see a lot of just direct site hits from teams on that site. And so I really like seeing that on the side of SSG, reading into that, getting the plant down, going up now 2-1. From Oxygen's side of things, I mean, their top floor hold didn't go that badly. They eventually did end up losing a couple of bodies. They traded out kind of nicely, but with the defuse kit going down inside of their site, it was a problem. And I think we're still running into these issues of OXG just bleeding a couple of bodies in the early round, right? The opening picks often going the way of SSG. For Oxygen, that's going to be a focus in this tactical timeout. How do they turn around these early rounds? How do they get aggressive without being too predictable so that SSG can't shut it down?
No, very good question. We have a technical pause, which there's some issue taking place. I'm not sure if you know what it is, but
I do not.
I expected you to be the one to fix this, and yet you've not fixed it.
I can get working on that right away.
Please, let me know.
First, I need to drive to whoever's player's house is having the issue. That's going to take me a while. I'm quite far north. Looks like it fixed itself.
Never mind. Okay, so you don't need to answer this. We've already got it answered. All good. No,
Great.
what that means though is it wasn't attack pause.
No.
Oh. That was excellent camera work. That was the reason why we had the pause, just for them to do that. Totally worth it, by the way.
It's been a long day. Production wants to have some fun. I'm here for it.
Why not? I mean, you know, I'm into it. Either way, downstairs, OXG will go. The one point I was trying to bring up, though, is that it wasn't a tactical pause, aka a timeout. There was no timeout taken, so presumably they don't actually get to speak or coordinate. They just have to go right back into it. So both teams, as far as we're keeping track, still able to discuss if things go bad, Jesse.
Indeed, that was my bad for mislabeling that call out. But regardless, we're back to the basement. And this was a bomb site that SSG did really well on. The roam clear was fantastic. It's going to be another heavy roam strategy. We see Newers on the top floor, yet to find a kill in this game, but still confidently playing at the top of yellow stairs. It's going to be Gomez and Yaga on the Valkyrie and Legion respectively, playing around this mid floor, making almost a layered defense that SSG, if they want a full clear, are going to have to work their way through. With that said, though, SSG have abandoned the Ram, and that could signify that they're going for a bit of a different push, maybe a servers execute. They're still top floor finding kills.
Ashton has been sensational on these entries, and I mean, the numbers really just show you that. Without much analysis needed beyond that, Benja, too, provides this great 1-2 punch for Space Station. And it's not like the other three players can't hold their own, but I mean, Benja dominated teams on the way to a world championship. Ashton is a fan of the Chicago Blackhawks. They're basically the same thing, Jesse. They have the same pedigree. Benja with another kill. Forrest taken down by a nitro cell. Fultz finds a way in through the back of the bomb site, and with almost 2 minutes to go, it's all up to Newers to try and save this round. Really,
I've seen this one before.
Do you think he wins it?
No.
Wow, that's a good prediction. He did not win it. So you were correct in that regard. Excellent finish by what looked like J9O to get that final kill. Diffuser was an inch away from being planted too. So really just everything going well for SSG across the board. Not be surprised to see OXG call a timeout soon. Maybe they'll wait until the second half if they feel like they can get a quick round win. But I mean, I'm no psychologist, but none of them look particularly happy.
I would really like to see attack timeout coming out here. You need to be winning your consulate defenses again, and it really just feels like they have no intel in these early rounds. They don't seem to be super aware of what SSG are pushing, what they're clearing. It'd be great to see some utility being brought for that. You know, lesion mines up to the top floor would be nice to see. Maybe some beepers, maybe some dread mines, maybe some barbed wire. I mean, there's lots of options to try to get intel on players that are trying to clear through the top floor, but it just doesn't feel like in the early round Oxygen are finding themselves in even gunfights. All of these gunfights are favorable for SSG because Oxygen players getting shot in the back of the head, getting caught off guard by window repels. The positioning is not close enough from OXG to trade, and then the intel is not good enough for them to even take those fair gunfights. So this has been a tough start for OXG. I won't lie to you. Yeah, 1-3 is not that bad on the scoreline, but given the context of this being a consulate defense, given the way these rounds have gone, I am concerned for Oxygen through the rest of this game. It's not going to get easier.
I think there's very valid cause for concern here. So you got to bail yourself out. You're taking on water, right? And each half, I guess you could say, is a different boat, but mentally you share that same vessel, because if you go down too far in the first half, there are plenty of teams that really struggle beyond that. I will say, the Valkyrie from OXG has really not provided a lot of value because they've either been Brava hacked by the Clutch drones, shot out or spotted by the IQ pretty much every single round. There hasn't been a single time that this operator has provided as much value to OXG as they would have hoped. And I do wonder how many times they're going to keep bringing this same operator when you're effectively losing 2 of those Val cams very quickly every single round.
Yeah, when I was looking at the operator bans, I kind of expected SSG to ban the Valk because I knew that Oxygen liked to run on this map, and it's one SSG had banned before. But the counters that they have to it are clearly extremely strong. I also want to mention Benja down here below where the smoke was playing. This is what I said a Buck would usually do to help a plant like this. And they just get out the window. This is the game that gets played on Consulate CEO. They're trying to waste as much util as they can before they actually have to commit to this plan.
Looking for that opening pick. Last logic bomb will go out, but all the mute jammers strewn across the top floor. Seriously helping these defenders right now, staying safe and not being spotted. SSG has relied so much on the intel game up to this point. Drones, Twitch drones, Clutch drones, the IQ scanner, logic bombs. Now it's the EE1D from Lion. They're making it a miserable existence for OXG to exist in any of these spots. Benja taking some damage down below as he was seen through a hatch. A toss out from Newers on to Forest. Will be Newers' first kill, actually. And he lukes the wrong way. Uh-oh. Newers with yet another. He has a kill onto J90. And SSG have a pretty bad result. I wonder if they're even going to attempt a 2v5. Maybe play it slow and just talk it out for the next round.
Ashton's about it. Swung. Somehow alive with 3 HP. There we go. Cleanup coming through. And then it's just Faults in the ace clutch. I don't know about this one, Parker. It'd have to be one of the greatest plays of all time.
Do you think Faults wins this one? Hold on a second. Let me ask it.
No.
Okay, you're right again. You're really
It's
good
crazy.
at this.
I know. I've got a little bit of a tactic. I'm not going to leak what it is, but I have a little bit of strategy when you ask me stuff like that.
I gotta say, yeah, you've been doing a sensational job, frankly, of
Thank you.
correctly predicting the ends of these rounds.
That's why I was an analyst.
I mean, I will say your
prediction
predictions do like, where is he playing? That's like, it actually looks like he's on the sun.
Yeah, that's very weird. It's not even like he must just be West Coast, surely, because it's only what? Well, that's still 6:30 on the West Coast.
I mean, yeah, if it's 6:30, it'll be light out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he's in like California or even since he's on SSG and they're based out of Utah,
Could
I
be.
mean,
Yeah.
it should still be bright there.
I think it's still light where I am. There's no windows in the studio that I'm in right now, so I couldn't tell you, but I think it's still light here.
You're unable to check if it's light in Edmonton.
I could go run to the other side of the apartment and look if you'd like me to.
Sunset in Edmonton. I'm going to ask Jeeves. Hold on. It says that the sun sets in Edmonton at 8:12 p.m. That's what Jeeves is saying, and I trust him. He does look like a very friendly butler.
Does that website even still exist?
I have no idea.
I don't know if it does.
I remember when it first like started, you had to actually ask it like normal human questions.
Drop the bomb diffuser.
Yeah.
Everybody's leaving. So I have no idea what happened, but everybody's left the game. So
You're
we are
rehosting.
having a small tech pause. It sounds like we're going to have a rehost. Do you think OXG is going to go find the right names? Or do you think they are lost forever?
I worry they may be gone, lost to the sands of time for now. But we can obviously hope. A couple of tech pauses coming out here now. I do think that Oxygen are again like in a really worrying spot. Even if they managed to get one extra round in round number 5, it's the same bomb site. They won twice, right? They won top floor in round 2. They won top floor in round 5. That's how Rainbow Six Siege site rotations work. So that bomb site is not going to be played again until overtime at the earliest. If you go down 4-2 when you're defending on consulate, then you have to go move over to the attack. Again, you're just in a really rough spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you.
Please.
It has been a very challenging game to analyze because nobody on OXG has a normal name, and I don't know who half of them are. So, and frankly, I'm not committing the brain power to try to memorize names that are nonsensical. So, I can kind of tell you what SSG's been doing, but not much from OXG. One thing about OXG that I will be able to talk about, though, is the fact that Valkyrie keeps coming back as just a hard counter or being hard countered by SSG. And you have to ask the question, in my mind, you have to ask the question, what value is an operator bringing to your team when it is repeatedly either just being outright canceled out, aka Valcams are being shot or tased by the Twitch drone, or ultimately are working against you because the clutch drones are taking them over, or a Dokubi's being brought and then they're hacking your cams. Obviously, when you're playing on consulate, just like every other map, you gotta have intel. That's a no-brainer. But maybe a bulletproof camera deeper into the bomb site, because you see all these Valkyrie cameras that OXG are employing are usually nowhere near an active player, which means that they're ripe for the picking, and they're being picked by SSG very effectively. Spacestation is hard countering that operator, and Newers was not just struggling from an objective standpoint, as he was the one playing that Valkyrie a fair bit, but also just being hard countered in terms of abilities, because Newers had 0 kills until the previous round. He was 0-4. That is very abnormal for Newers, who is traditionally referred to as one of the best fraggers in North America.
Yes.
Thank you. So really just quite a perplexing decision by OXG. Valkyrie has been brought all 5 rounds. Gomez brought Valkyrie in the first round, then Newers, then Yaga, then back to Gomez, then back to Newers. So they've just been ping-ponging. And I genuinely do not feel, even with the rounds that have been won by OXG, that Valkyrie has been a difference maker. And I mean, I'm open to being told otherwise, but you have to imagine there's operators that provide more value. Newers also played Mute and Malusi. Those are high-value operators. Gomez played Smoke and Wamai. Those are other high-value operators, and you can bring them on most bomb sites and be okay when it comes to utility.
The thing is, like, I think Auction historically are in stage 1, they were the worst defensive team in the North American League besides Los. They had a 49% win rate on defense. When they played the Valkyrie, that jumped up to 56%. They really did do a lot better with the Valkyrie than without. But the problem is they brought it so much and it's so predictable that I think SSG have read into that, and they brought a ton of different counters. They played really well against the Valkyrie. And so now OXG, they need to either find something else that's going to work just as well as the Valkyrie has in the past, or they're probably not going to do very well for the rest of this game.
Well, we're not really sure what's going on with this technical issue. We apologize for the delays so far today, but we've got a break ready for you. We'll be back in just a moment. Jesse, what has happened in every single game so far as we now load back into this matchup.
Need to locate and defuse as many
In every single game so far, Parker, we have had a 3-3 scoreline at the half point of the match. And in our first 2 games, they got pushed all the way to both 7-5 and then an 8-6. And then in our third game of the day, it did not do that. It went 7-3 as our final score.
Camera in position.
Do you think... Hold on.
Holding.
We have roughly 3 minutes of waiting until I ask you if you think it'll be a 3-3 first half, and then you answer right after the result happens.
What? I wouldn't do that.
No casting whatsoever for the
doesn't
next 3
sound
minutes.
like
That's the
me.
rule. You know how it is. You know how it is.
I just feel like maybe the viewers would like some casting, though.
I think it really depends.
Honestly, true.
Though, I will say, even as somebody who likes casting, every now and then it would be cool to be able to just get a clean feed set my way. Just send me the clean feed. That's it. That's all I need to know. We as casters actually do usually have access to the clean feed, so it's not an us problem. It's an everybody else problem.
Yeah. I understand why we don't have it, but I would really like Perma team comp. Oh, you're dead.
Oh. Fultz running in, trying to get the Selma off. I don't know if the Selma actually did go off or not. Benja had 8 kills, if memory serves correctly, before we had a rehost. Or that was Ashton, actually, with 8 kills. Benja getting the first pick for his team is excellent. Another pick will come out, this time onto J90, and Spaceship is blasting off right now inside of the lobby. I genuinely have no idea what player that is. So... I think Hat's Buttermilk. That's the only one I remember.
Hold on, I wrote it down. It's Gomez.
Oh, excellent. There you go. Nice play by Gomez. I do love Buttermilk, just like as an aside. I think Buttermilk is excellent. It's great in a lot of recipes too.
Agreed.
Thank you. All Benja and Forrest now. Another very brisk round. And Jesse, guess what it looks like?
It looks like we're going to a 3-3 split. Especially
That's
with
crazy.
great intel from Hat. They know exactly when this swing is coming out. Not able to capitalize on it yet, but there's not a lot Benja can do here. They know his exact position. Forrest looks like he's going to come around and try to help. Forrest is miles away at this point. It's going to be a minute before he can get back and help out Benja.
Hat trying to chase him down, but he's gone. He slipped through your fingers. Benja fighting the whole world. Forrest upstairs just on his own, just having a good time.
They might be trying to plant top floor while Benja just stracks down here in the basement. I'm not sure. Well, now it's definitely not going to work because they should know with the pulse down below on Hat, this should be foretold. And yet it is not. They don't use the pulse scanner. They don't find him. And that's a successful plant from Forrest now in a 1v3.
They all seemed completely confused by that predicament. They've all retaken and all of them are upstairs on the same stairwell. Literally all of them.
Okay.
Forrest, where are you though? He's waiting to gain intel. Nicely played, a great reversal, but keep in mind the pulse is still on the board. It could be hunting him down. Forrest needs to open things up, but he won't be able to get to Buttermilk in time. The milk has in fact not gone bad. And Jesse, do you think we're gonna have a 3-3 first half?
I think we may, Parker. I think we will. And indeed we have. 3-3 in the first half. A little bit weird the way that one ended for us getting the plant off. And then I loved the idea of playing the IQ down below, but couldn't get the angle on the second guy. Trying to teach the pulse how to do his job maybe, but he couldn't quite be too successful at it either. An interesting one for sure. I like the way that OXG were able to find those opening picks. That's actually something that we talked about, if you can remember it, way before the tech pauses. That was a problem in Oxygen we're having. SSG had gotten so many of the opening picks prior to that round. Finally, it felt like Oxygen were able to win the early game gunfights. They had an advantage going into that late round, and it made all the difference. It enabled them to get to the 3-3 split. Now, will they be able to convert that and do the same thing on attack? I guess we'll have to find out.
It really is quite incredible to think that we had Clubhouse back-to-back, and then Consulate back-to-back, and all 4 of the matches started 3-3. First match went the full distance in regulation. Second match almost went the full distance in overtime. Third match was a stomp, and now here we are. And honestly, very eager to see how this first round plays out, because while OXG had struggles with utility on certain rounds. It also looked like SSG were doing a poor job of gaining intel from droning. And I mean, when you're bringing mute basically every round, as OXG was doing, not every round, but a lot of them, 4 of the 6, you're going to struggle to gain intel. And OXG were just, you know, capitalizing off of SSG's lack of understanding of the defensive structures that OXG had set up. This time around, Ashton was playing Vigil. I have to expect he had a boss GA cog.
He didn't actually.
Really?
Yeah, he K1A.
And he still died far too early.
I think what happened there, and I could be wrong, the default cam was up. Ashton was flicking through the default cams. An IQ got to the top floor. I wonder if the IQ saw him on the cam, told his teammate, and then shot him through the soft yellow wall. I think that might have been what happened. I can't say for 100% sure.
Not really entirely sure. They lost Benja Master now as well. That represents the lion's share of your kills. Ashton and Benja Master up to this point combined for 13 kills. The rest of the team, 9. So quite a big distance between them. I mean, granted, Ashton is leading the way in the whole lobby with 8, but when you have your 2 fraggers die, you're usually in a rough spot. SSG has depth. All of these teams at this level have depth. And there's J90 showing it off on yellow stairs. Goodbye, spaceship. See you later. A crash landing. Unfortunately, spaceship does not survive.
Surprisingly, we've not talked too much about J90 this game. He's kind of been a little quieter than his teammates, but obviously one of the greatest players in the game inside of North America. Very good at these smoke and anchor type operators. Now playing yellow stairs with a short shotgun, but we have a dangerous situation right here, and it will go the way of Faults, taking down the roamer up on the top floor. Taking down the roam clearer, I should say. The logic bombs not being able to be utilized to find that pick and start us off means that OXG have now led away their man advantage.
Forrest manages to get buttermilk. Finally, the milk is spoiled. Forrest is retrievable at this point. Fultz dies to full dozen. And now it's up to the boss. Watching this angle, lighting up the ankles of J90. A combined 44 HP between the last 2 players of SSG. Full dozen in the hunt, and he beheads Forrest. My goodness. What an absolutely pugilistic match this has been, and that round is a great example of it. Both teams coming to blows multiple times, seemingly very little actual utility being used. It was just gunfight after gunfight after gunfight, and it was OXG who came out on top.
Nice to see a good round from Yaga. Honestly, he's a player that has certainly been criticized throughout his play of this year so far. He was the worst player statistically in Stage 1, going 73 and 105. He also had some of the lowest kill totals in the game coming into that round. Finally finding a series of multi-kills now post-rehos. He's sitting at 5-1. He's a player that I think fans of OXG have been wanting to see perform for a long time now. Whilst he has had his struggles, whilst historically he's not been a player that has thrived this year, we know he's capable of it. Back at the 6th Invitational, he was really good for OXG. He's been amazing back looking at his days on XSET, way back at certain majors and invitational events. He has been very good throughout his career, but this year has been a bit of a tough one for him. I like that he was able to finally jump in and get some kills in a round, because that was desperately needed, and it's going to need to be continued if Auction want to win this game.
Another Gridlock showing up. We saw Gridlock early on Clubhouse, but how does Gridlock function on Consulate? Additionally, we see a Sens on the board in the hands of Spaceship. That is not something that is usually seen. You cannot control Sens gadget. They just bounce all over the place. Yep. And I mean, if you're good at throwing them, that's great. A lot of times when you see Sens, it will be on this top floor bomb site. Roll them in through the window, give yourself some coverage, try to jump in. It will cut off through that double door into the lobby, over towards long desk. Potentially, if you get a good bounce, that is. And then you just get a plant down. Quick plants will happen on this bomb site, but can OXG get in the building quickly? So far, they're close, but they haven't quite been able to sink their teeth into this SSG defense.
They've not. And my concern with the Sens is there's two really strong counters. Both the Warden, of course, whose main ability completely counters the Sens wall, but then also Fultz, who's playing in the basement right now. He's going to be able to rotate up to Piano if they try to plant in the CEO window. Can also rotate over to the front door area if they try to plant inside of meeting. He's got a lot of options to stop this plant, even without having to see through the walls. So SSG has some great tools. I don't believe they're aware of Fultz down in on the basement. They might have droned him, but I don't think they have. That's going to be a big thorn in their side going late into this round. Thankfully, though, they do have DS on the main floor on that gridlock, who's hopefully going to be able to watch for this.
Sorry, it's D Brown.
D Brown.
D Brown is on the main floor.
That
Not
is.
Diaz. Okay. I respect the names that people use. That's why I still call it Twitter. I'm glad you caught that as a joke. Thank you. Oh my. Spaceship and the boss on a collision course with Benja, who has to peel off of this position and actually gets away. Dealer's choice as to where he might be. J90 destroying Spaceship. Benja will need some assistance here, but with the time currently ticking down, almost at 30 seconds, you as OXG need to be quite quick. Say goodbye to full dozen. J90's second kill. That's that same D Brown down below that you had talked about. Benja eliminating Buttermilk. Following up, cannot outduel the boss. Bruce Springsteen, did somebody call you? Is this win about to be born in the USA? It's all up to you in a 1v4. Taking some damage from the side. Swung on by Fultz and Space Station equalizes. This seems more like the first two matches that we watched, Jesse, and not like the third, as the scoreline is 4-4.
Yeah, that was really a case of OXG struggling to get started with their strategy. They didn't get to use a single Sens wall. The util never really came out. They got control of admin. They got control of break room. They had some players around spiral stairs, but then getting that next step, getting through the hallway, taking control of top spiral, clearing out the vending player was the hard part. And that's always the hard part. There's a reason why teams don't like pushing admin very often. If they do push admin, they'll usually bring maybe a Capitao or a Grim or some operator specifically designed to shut down that vending position that we saw being played by Benja. And they just didn't really have anything like that. Even though Benja went for kind of an aggressive swing and they could have shut him down there, they weren't able to do so. And then when they had to just sprint past the crossfire, he swung out, got the kill instead. Really didn't seem like Auction had a great plan. I think maybe Sens was the plan to get past that part of the bomb site, or part of the map. But again, the Sens wall didn't come out, died before he had the chance to. Great 2K opening from J90 to start us off there in that round. And because of it, it'll mean Space Station Gaming tie up the game 4-4.
That's been a really close matchup. And again, it really is coming down to these gunfights. Benja was in position for how long? Behind that vending machine, roughly 30 seconds, give or take.
Yeah.
I didn't see a drone go his way. They tried to nade him out, but it was way too late. They were obviously wary of somebody being at the top of those Visa stairs, maybe getting swung in the actual bomb site. But either way, it's like you have utility, you have gadgetry. Admittedly, IQ doesn't really have anything outside of those nades to bounce off of the wall to take care of you, and you might not just want to lob a grenade without thinking it through, because if he's not by that vending machine, you're just wasting utility. But you don't try to use it to flush him out. You know J90's over by the top of spiral stairs on long desk, and you don't do anything to try to flush him out either. You just have Yaga, I believe it was, sprint up the stairs and get bamboozled from a similar position. It's a puzzling choice.
OXG are cooking up a strategy, and to make it, they need a full dozen of eggs. It's going to be full dozen himself up the Visa stairs now, but oh no, there's Fultz below, and he's behind shooting the boss in the back of the head.
Goodbye, the boss. It was nice knowing you. Newer's having a really rough game, by the way, as he is known as the boss. Only 3 kills so far through 9 rounds, which is well below what we expect of him. It's not always terrible to have a low number of kills. Obviously, it's never great, but if you can provide value in other ways, that's fine, especially if you play on a role that doesn't usually get kills. But Newer's provides a lot of value by getting kills, finding openings for his team, and does play on those frag-oriented roles. Buttermilk gets caught looking the wrong way. Fultz picks up a second kill. Benja Master with one of his own onto D Brown, and it's all up to full dozen in Spaceship. Everybody from Space Station still upright. The only one who's taken any bit of damage is Fultz. Everybody else is doing okay. seems like very definitely going in Space Station's favor, but anything can happen, especially when there's 1 minute left.
2v5 now, you're out of logic bombs. You do have flashes still, and some smokes. There's no blitz flash now, but it didn't actually affect that Valkyrie, so what does Faltz need to do? He's no fear at all. It's just a guy behind a shield with a pistol. It's not very threatening. He'll make it past, and still so much work to do from Oxygen to find 5 kills in 35 seconds.
Some serious damage being done by Spaceship there. Full dozen with a kill as well. They both get on the board. It's the first 2 kills for OXG, and they come with 25 seconds remaining, so plenty of work for them to do. Fenrir obscuring their eyes, but Spaceship gets yet another. He's been excellent for this team. He and Full Dozen will now need to get into the bomb site. 5 HP on Full Dozen. Spaceship pushes up. Down goes Full Dozen to Forest, and Ashton finishes off Spaceship. SSG survived a bit of a scare there. They had everything going for them in that round. But then again, it comes down to gunplay, in which both teams have some great gunners. OXG just a little bit behind on that one, and they will call their timeout.
Yeah, the key thing for Space Station for me in that round was that they always seemed to know exactly what Oxygen wanted to do. In the early round, they knew Oxygen wanted to enter in through the basement and walk up Visa stairs. So what did they do? They sent a couple players to flank that push, get a couple of picks on players that they weren't expecting to be there. And so they really effectively shut down that push before it could start going with the brunt of its execute. Then in the late round, they knew Oxygen wanted to go and plant the defuse kit. In the 2v2, they knew about approximately where that plant was going to go down, so Forrest went to the main floor. He denied the plant from below. I'm not sure if he knew 100% how low the blitz was, but all it took was 1 bullet spammed through the floorboards to stop that plant and effectively seal out the round for SSG. Love the way that they played that from start to finish. And as you said, I mean, Oxygen now struggling still to find some of these frags from some of their players. We talked about Newers having a particularly rough game. In stage 1, he had 145 kills, more than anybody else on his team. He was their star player, as he's been basically for the last 2 years of being on Oxygen. This game, this stage, it just doesn't seem like he's still got that spark that he's previously had. We're 1 game in. Everybody has bad games. I don't want to read too much into it. But if OXG want to make it back to a top 4 team, if they want to get back to attending international events as they once did, Newers having performances like this cannot continue happening.
No, of course. I mean, you also picked up Hat because of how well he did on Luminosity, right? And you saw time and time again, he was capable of absolutely destroying people.
Yeah.
And what is Hat sitting at right now? He's 3-6. So, I mean, you've got Newers on 3-7, Hat on 3-6. These are the 2 guys that realistically you should be expecting them to do well. Now, Ace is in a weird spot as an operator because while he is a traditional hard breacher and is more of a support player, we do see Aces tend to do quite well in the killing department. Based on operator roles, it does not surprise me much at all if you had somebody like Yaga in a more forward position. Oh, I mean, I guess he got a kill, so that's good.
Oh boy.
D Brown goes down to Buttermilk, and unfortunately, already OXG, after taking their time out, hopefully talking through things and getting into a better headspace, they will battle from a position of weakness.
Gosh, that's so bad too, because the Doe could be gone, and that was going to be your main tool that you used to clear out these roamers. You see Ashton aggressive inside of the bathroom. Benja's up on this top floor as well. These players now have become so much more difficult to hunt down. You do have the Deimos. That's nice. That's going to help you a little bit here. He's got all 3 of his scans. But look who he's tracked. He's only tracked Mira and Legion, 2 players that are not actively roaming on the top floor.
He doesn't have the boss G, by the way. You were right.
Yeah.
Like, Yaga and him could be in a fight as they are just moments apart. And Yaga, sorry, Full Dozen has, oh, he has utility in his pockets. You've lost the Dokkaebi, you've lost the Ram. At least there is a bit of a chuckle, as we can see from the player cam of Full Dozen.
Now we're looking really good for SSG. I mean, the breach isn't open to the point where you can run into it. They do have some good utility coming in yellow, but the bodies just keep on hitting the floor. There's still roamers up above too who can come back for flanks at any time. Ashton, but Faltz as well. And now there's just a mute jammer that they can't deal with. They already used both nades somehow on Newers. Yes, we see Gomez with 2 nades in his pocket, but he's nowhere near the breach. So, like, what's the plan here?
Not really sure. Ashton is going to run roughshot over them. Down goes Spaceship, and it's all up to the boss. SSG looking to move to match point. Maybe we did speak too soon. I said this was going to be a close one, and while it's not quite as close as we wanted it to be, Oxygen retrieving that diffuser. Lots of time. Bolts upstairs, delaying Newers for the time being. Could have somebody try to flank up yellow and Newers would be vulnerable to that position. Instead, he just wants to take this engagement here. I think Newers understands that this is an unwinnable situation. He's seen a proverbial writing on the wall. One behind the piano, one playing by the wall. Even if Newers gets one pick, there's another player not too far removed. Fultz will graciously end the round on his behalf, and Space Station will move to match point.
I told you in that round that Newers has got 145 kills through stage 1. Ashton had doubled that in stage 1. Obviously, Ashton played at a major, so bit of a difference in sample size there, of course. But even still, Ashton has been a great player, a frag-heavy player for SSG. Interesting for him to pick up the K1A. I think a lot of players, when they do choose to do that, want to play a bit more of an active role. If you're going to be swinging people, the K1A can be a lot better for, you know, having the rapid shots to take those more forward gunfights. The Boss G's real strength comes in holding angles. Because you one shot from the body, you one shot from the head. That means you can hold crouch height, you can hold... Well, if you hold crouch height, you one shot regardless, right? So you don't need to make a guess on that based on the angle that you're holding. Ashton decided to play the K1A because he wants to be very mobile, he wants to move around the map, he wants to swing people, he wants to take more forward gunfights where he's the one aggressing into the attacking players. And it pays off for him there, as it does for the rest of SSG. Now, if you're Oxygen, we talked about how rough it was to only get 3 rounds on your defense. They have managed 1 attack for the last couple of rounds. They need to get 2 more in a row. Otherwise, they are being knocked out with 0 points in their first play day.
Quite a dire situation for OXG, as they might have their last gasp in this particular matchup. But they've got plenty of games to play. All these teams do. It'll be not a long season, but long enough. OXG will be in action against Los tomorrow. And with the way that Los played today, if I'm OXG, I'm immediately mentally moving on to that game. As for Space Station, they will have a late game yet again as they play up against LG tomorrow. The one team that has the day off tomorrow is Wildcard, so we will not see them again until the 12th when they are in action against OXG. So, I mean, they will be well rested. And honestly, Wildcard really did give Sonics a run for their money earlier today. 1 minute of live action and not a lot to talk about so far in this round, Jesse.
One thing I will say is Oxygen have a really strong control of the main floor. You see Yaga down here. Of course, they've got Newers on the Deimos as well. Both Buck and Deimos, very good operators at killing players that are up above them, really good at the vertical frags. And we will see Yogg take a little bit of damage here. That's an incredibly important part of this execute. If they can harass Ashton a little bit, stop maybe some of the smoke play from coming out from Forest, they could set themselves up for a really strong execute on the CEO. The danger is that somebody flanks down Spiral or flanks down Visa and takes these fights. Watch out for that later in the round from SSG, but at least for now, it's 5 players on the top floor and they're being hunted by the Deimos and the Buck.
And you've still got Newers down there, right? And all that soft destruction that's being done will just continue to aid OXG in the way that they want to pull this off. But yeah, I mean, I guess that early fight is really going to seal how this round goes. If SSG can get an early pick or 2 and then put somebody downstairs, that's probably curtains for OXG should they attempt to pull off a plant, just based on the way the map functions. Toxic canisters will now go towards the windows to delay OXG's repellent, and as you can see, that's a lot of silhouettes, and here they go.
Did the Toxic Babe miss?
Oh,
no.
Looks like it did. No damage whatsoever done to Buttermilk. The boss gets the very first pick on to Fultz. Air jabs going off, and there's a retake on the main floor. from Space Station. The bees preventing them from access towards the closet. Nitro cell from Benja missed as well. Belated Candelas to go out. Ashton trying to find something. 1 kill can be found on the boss. Benja on diffuser. But there's an upside down rappel and nothing can be done by SSG. Now it's none other than Spaceship down below. Buttermilk with 1 kill. Forest in a 1v2. Window closed. Running out of time. No way to get to the diffuser. OXG lives to see at minimum 1 more round as Buttermilk closes it out right as the timer hits 0, getting the final kill on the Forest.
Bit of a goofy round to lose. If your SSG, Toxic Babe went out, it missed. A C4 went out, it got caught on the wall. All the plant denial that they had, strategically, they had the answers to that execute, right? OXG, despite the fact that they had the plant going down and they had strong bottom floor pressure, SSG had plant denial and they were able to use it. They just missed twice. And I gotta give credit again to the buck down below from Newers and from Yaga, the buck and the Deimos. That pressure really forced those players with the C4 and the Toxic Babes to fall back and have to play a little bit farther away from the window, making it harder to land the Toxic Babe, harder to land the C4. So I do think Oxygen deserves some credit in that round for being able to shut down some of that plant denial by making it more difficult. At the end of the day, though, if you're SSG, man, really wish you hit that.
Yeah, that's a rough one. And one that you're going to want back, but it was just a round prior where an untimely team kill from Buttermilk caused SSG to ultimately snowball the rest of that round. And that's one that SSG wins. Now they lose a round that they were hoping to win and maybe came close to doing so. It's just like our matchup earlier today, Jesse. You know, you can't really look at rounds that should have been won. M80 realistically should have won that match like 9-5 or something like that. If you just go off of the rounds where they absolutely should have closed it out. But that's not how the game is played. We can theorize and say, well, it should be played this way, and it doesn't actually end up happening that way in reality. So keep a level head. Ensure that you've got everything aligned for what is the final round of regulation. Space Station calling their timeout, meaning that both of these teams are going to be going into overtime, should it be required, without a parachute. They will just be playing off of their own abilities. SSG is one of the best coaches in the business in call-out. So if there's anybody who can talk this team through one more round, you got to imagine it's him.
Auction for their part. It was announced that it is just Redeemer and Kizzy now as the coaching staff of this team. So we have seen a bit of a change up on both on Auction for the coaching side of things. Kizzy coming in from Brazil, being brought on up, and Ashton being brought down by Newers for the opening pick, just the middle of the site player, the middle of the top floor. Ashton taken out from one of the outside angles, and that's going to be a tough one to lose early.
Yeah, I mean, Ashton dying early is something that's happened a number of times. It does not mean an immediate loss for Space Station, but it certainly doesn't help their chances, especially when, again, Ashton sits atop the team in terms of kills, but Forrest is catching up. Ashton sits at 12, Forrest 10 total, if you count his stats before the rehost. As for OXG, a lot of numbers underwater. There's only one player on the team who's not negative. Nobody on the team is positive right now. So even though the scoreline is so close, it is crazy to think that 8-8 is Gomez, Had is 5-7, Yag is 9-10, Diaz is 5-8, Newers is 6-9. None of those players are positive, and yet they are a single round away from potentially throwing us to overtime.
Capcan Trap does a bit of damage. J9O, the only person on SSG currently up on this top floor. They're going to be hunting him like a shark. They've got logic bombs, and actually Faults rotates up the yellow stairs and gets a kill. Never mind, they solved that problem by adding a second player to the equation.
Taking some bullet fire down below, but doesn't actually take any damage from that altercation. J9O taken out by Buttermilk in that spot. Faults sitting at just about half HP. Hopefully the Valkyrie cameras for Space Station fans prove to be a little bit better than OXG's. Benja now taking up some space at the top of Spiral Stairs. Down goes the boss. That's still in this position. He's got some spam marks, presumably from those Valkyrie cameras. Amaru and a Ying not too far removed. Full dozen down to 25 HP. Hat slaughtered from down below. Forest has a read onto that hatch. Throws a goo mine before backing away. If Yaga drops, he'll step into one of those traps. No Candelas remaining. A strong position for OXG. Did not look great until D Brown gets the pick onto Forest. It's just full dozen and D Brown. That's it. HP's favoring SSG, and they've got one to find. Is this it for Oxygen? Mounting a comeback. So close. But it's all up to Diaz in a 1v2, diffuser in hand, 10 seconds left, and he'll hit a goo mine. That's gotta be it. Time to pull it out and soldier on in. He didn't get it in time, and there's another right in front of him. No time at all. Forest letting out a cry of joy. Space Station take the match over OXG.
And it wasn't easy. I mean, I think a lot of people thought this would be a lopsided game coming into it, but OXG, they did push SSG pretty far in this game, bringing it to 5 rounds being won by themselves. So ultimately, we did see some fight back from Oxygen, but SSG better at the end of the day. I loved in that last round their ability to rotate up, one guy up yellow, one guy up spiral, and then forced a kill from the piano hatch as well, going counter to the vertical from the bottom floor up to the top to work those picks and regain the man advantage. You've got to feel good if you're SSG. This is a team that a lot of people think are going to be contending for the major spot, and now they're going to be going into the second play day tomorrow up 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be very proud if I was Space Station, but both of these teams clearly have things to work on. And I mean, hey,
yeah,
it's the start of a new stage. There will likely be a meta shift when the new season comes out. Things will change, but at least we got a good glimpse into 8 of the 9 teams in action today. That's it for you and I in our debut as an official duo, but we've got a break ready, and then we'll be back.
Basically, every game that we had today went the full distance, with the exception of Game 3. This one just tacks on as another 12 rounds onto what was already a really good day. We saw 2 clubhouses, 2 consulates. Most of the teams that we thought were going to win ended up winning. Who was undefeated on predictions today? Who got them all right? Who was it?
He was.
Me.
He got him. Fox, even though
Barely.
we don't have percentage counters anymore, Fox is 100% on the day.
I'm 75.
Hey, everything was really close.
Yeah.
All the games could have gone either way, and I feel like even though there was some losers today, I really want to say a majority of the teams...
There was 4 losers today.
Yeah, technically, but I want to say a majority of the teams were winners. Only Los that I think was the team that really, really lost, and they'll get back to the drawing board, but that's fair. But every other team, I really loved everything that we saw from every team.
I can agree with that too. I think obviously when you look at all the teams, they were all relatively close. The one that stuck out the most was obviously the Los Luminosity game, and they just looked very poor. So this is a big learning experience for Los to take back from today and, you know, bounce back tomorrow.
True to Jesse's point, this last game was another 3-3 half. Yet again, that was the consistent trend as the day went on, and SSG pull out the dub, but not before OXG and whatever the hell they decided to name themselves ended up still making this a relatively close contest by the end.
I mean, I want to say, yeah, I mean, I definitely want to commend OXG. I mean, they did show up here. They looked a lot better than what Wild Card Restart looked like. So, I mean, a player that I even want to touch up on specifically is Yaga. Yaga, to be able to be talking about him, to be able to see him flourishing, getting those 4Ks, that's what we've seen Yaga way back in the day that we just hadn't been seeing the last stage and even previously. So, definitely glad to see Yaga back on the board. I am looking forward to see what they look like throughout the rest of the stage.
Every round was just a back and forth, just which team was going to slay out on the other team. I will say that towards the end, SSG started to run away with it. The rounds that they won looked a little bit more strategically sound, whereas a lot of Oxygen's round looked like they were just winning gunfights. And that's my biggest fear for this OXG, is when they have to problem solve, it's just throwing more bodies at it, shooting better. It doesn't look like they're really trying to dissect the problem, and I think that's because they just don't have somebody in the server that's able to really dissect the problem. It's just, well, if it doesn't work, let's just shoot better.
They also had the issue where they were down 3-1 on consulate defense in the first half, where most teams would probably need to go up on, like, at a base minimum 4-2 to really have a shot. They were down 3-1, then had to scrape this thing back. So is there any logic to the idea that if they had a better first half, maybe they come away with this game?
I mean, I think just naturally being experienced players like themselves, that they can identify where those first 3 rounds may have went wrong or 4 rounds went wrong, that they could easily bounce back off those 2. But again, it goes back into what you were saying. They just lack that experience of someone figuring out the long term.
So let's get Ashton here to talk about how this one went. Dude, again, congratulations on the victory. It's a great way to start off the stage. Walk me through how the past couple of months have been from off-season up until this point. When Manchester ended, what was it like for the guys? And then when you played in these other off-season tournaments, just walk me through how things have been for you all.
Yeah, from Manchester, obviously we kind of saw like an open opportunity to get Benja and stuff like that, which we made happen, which was good. And then, you know, we just, for the quals going into World Cup, you know, obviously we all boot camped in person, which was obviously great. That was a great, you know, bonding factor, and just getting Benja in the mix was very important, honestly, because, you know, we tend to have, you know, a heavy culture, big team dynamic, just like in and out of the game. So getting him in the mix was obviously great. And then there we went to World Cup. You know, we really just wanted to translate, you know, how we were playing good in practice, just a game day, you know, no other expectations. And yeah, you know, we lost by 1 round. You know, it was a 7-7 versus Furia, and you know that was just, it was 1 round difference between you know the semis, and yeah, it happens. Just,
Yeah, no, I feel you. And I got a question for you specifically, Ashton, because honestly, it's truly impressive how consistent you are across the board. And when I talk about consistency, you're also performing extremely well. If you could just tell the audience, just what are your 3 biggest takeaways for your own self that keeps you so consistent and that allows you to keep improving?
Yeah, I think this is something with a lot of pros is they don't play like the game a lot, and 500 ranked games or something like that. You know, I just play through the cheaters, so you know I love playing the game, even though I play some cheaters sometimes. I think now that I'm out of high school, I'm really just dialed on Siege.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in community college while online while doing Siege at the same time.
Good for you.
You know, it's just a lot of Siege, and then you know just a lot of focus, really like just kind of focusing on myself. And so third, I mean, you know, I like being aggressive, you know, just playing aggressive, and you really just got to train, you know, at the right times to get aggressive and when not to. And then if you can kind of, you know, hammer that majority of the time, it'll be on your side of the coin most of the time.
Well, you're hammering it, man.
It's a great way to show discipline, and now you have been with SSG for a little while now, and you've picked up your own, technically, obviously you won one invitational with G2, but coming onto your team, he is like the new young guy. So do you feel like you have established yourself in the team just family-wise, and it's no longer like, oh, Ashton is like the rookie that needs to be just brought into things? It feels like your team and you're just getting Benja kind of caught up on everything, or how does it feel now for you personally?
Yeah, I think it's been like a year now that I've been on SSG. It's flown by, honestly. I think it's me and Jack, and I know, who are like the rivals, and so you know it's like I'm kind of like the little kid. I guess me and him are the little kids of the team. You know, but Benja obviously kind of quiet guy, but you know he still opens up to us. Yeah, I think I'm still kind of like that little kid, because you know me and Jack have like a rivalry, we like to call it, and then you know got faults. He's like the daddy.
It's crazy you say that, you know, you're the little guy, but you're bigger than Jack.
Oh yeah, I mog him in any other aspects outside.
Talk about
all
Consulate.
the lifts I mog him.
Talk about Consulate and OXG more specifically. What was it like playing against this team? Did they do what that you expected that they were going to do? And just in Consulate in general, with a 3-1 lead in your case, letting it fall down to 3-3 before moving over to the other half. Just how do you think this game went, and how do you think OXG played?
Yeah, they really looked like they didn't change much. They honestly felt really easy to read, and I think that was a big part of why, you know, we were able to get so many attacks so early, regardless of like the scoreline after, like 3-3. Obviously 3-3 is still good. I think, you know, a lot of people are expecting cons to be kind of defender sided, but honestly it feels kind of even, not gonna lie. But obviously once we flip to defense, you know, they telegraph, you know, pretty easily, and you know it's pretty easy to see what they're gonna do. So we just had to pick up on that, and then you know I was getting mad because you know one of the ways I died, and so you know we just had to change the game plan a little bit, and then you know I just reined back a little bit, and then everyone just kept it smooth from there. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. We got you for last game of the day against Luminosity again up tomorrow night. Rest up. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll get you in the server. Have a good night, dude.
Thank you. You as well.
And that is a phenomenal way for Spacestation to start their stage with a brand new player on the roster. You're again. What was the line? Same Space Station,
Same
different
station, different crewmate.
Different crewman, yep. And it kind of looked like that because Benja looked really solid today.
I mean, he's slotting into the role perfectly. They look very comfortable, but I mean, it goes into what you were saying, like you still are, you know, kind of worried about this team. You don't think Benja was going to be the end-all be-all for this team, and I think they still have issues that they need to work on because this game was still close. This wasn't like a landslide, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying that Benja wasn't the end-all be-all. I think Benja and Ashton are kind of the spearhead entry. It's really about the rest of the team finding their footing. A big player that was notably a successful player on the previous rosters of SSG was Fultz. He's been having a phenomenal year, and not to say that he isn't performing well at this stage or at EWC. He is, but he's been taking more of a backseat role.
He's getting older.
Yeah, I guess so, but I mean, just to be able to...
Takes an old man to know an old man, huh?
True.
Yep.
Who's the old man?
Me.
I'm talking about him.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was about to say,
You're pretty old.
I got some
You still have a
age.
little bit of
age
youth
on
and
you.
hair's
vitality
white right
left in
now.
there somewhere. Yeah.
But my point still stands is that Fultz is the rest of the team are taking kind of like a more supportive backseat role. You know, we're used to seeing Force as that hot support player that's always just rushing in, as opposed to playing the util. And a lot of these players are developing throughout their experience and their history on the team.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see. My worry is just when a player goes to that backseat role, not necessarily backseat role, but the support roles, it's interesting to see how they cope with it, how they adjust to it. So far, they're doing great. So far, everything I said about OXG is also doing great. They are not starting hot so far. So, I mean, who knows? You know, I can't remember a time I've been wrong.
I mean, again, you got every prediction right. And you were so close to getting every prediction right if that one overtime period from earlier in the day goes your way. And speaking of an overtime period, we'll just throw the whole schedule up there. Just as a reminder of how day one of Stage 2 went, that game in particular was M80's 8-6 victory over C9BC. It was so close, but yet so far for those guys.
Yeah, and realistically, I mean, C9 looked like they were in the driver's seat there. There were many rounds that it just came down to such a small detail, completely shifted the tides for them, and they would end up losing to M80. So, I mean, yes, Fox was right, but fundamentally, C9 just looked better.
Yeah, we were right that game was going to be the game of the day. I highlighted OXG SSG, which was a great game. You highlighted the first game, Wildcard SQ, which was a great game. And then we came together and said, usually when the bottom teams play against each other, it's one of the more exciting games because there's a lot of mistakes, new things that you see, and LG brought a lot of fast, new takes that we saw. So I feel like every game of the day, every game today was their own game of the day.
Day one definitely brought the sort of firepower we need to see from a region that hasn't played in quite some time, so it's good that the offseason was very well spent for some of these teams. So just as a reminder, this is what the standings look like after just one day. Because we did have one overtime game, it means currently LG sit atop the standings along with Sonics. Space Station is up there too, and M80 split the difference on the amount of points they got over C9BC. And just as a reminder, DZ did not play today. They will play their first game tomorrow.
Well, at least one of our teams ended up here in the first place off, you know, the power rankings.
Sonics?
Yeah, well, Sonics and Space. I had Space Station, I believe, second. You had Sonics.
I have Sonic second.
Sonic second, yeah. So,
But you know what's right is the bottom.
Some things unfortunately never change. Here's day two schedule just to get DZ finally in the mix. They have their first matchup tomorrow, and that is against the Sonics. So that one is already a barn burner because of the way the roster moves went. Now you factor in how well Sonics did on their very first day, and that is easily game of day two.
Yeah, and Ambi said it himself. It's going to be a cinema.
Cinema.
Yeah, that is
Martin
gonna be
Scorsese gif. Just cinema.
That is going to be a great game. I'm low-key, I'm putting some respect on Luminosity. I think that last game is going to be really hot too.
That Space Station game could be fun, yeah. Two teams that won on Consulate get the chance to hash it out tomorrow.
I'm excited to see Wildcard against M80, to be honest. Like, Wildcard played, I mean, all teams, again, that we talked about, played really well today, outside of Los. But again, I think tomorrow is still going to be another exciting day, and we get to see the first time look at Dark Zero.
Hopefully we see more Clubhouse and Consulate.
God, please play, guys, play any other map. This is directly to everybody who plays tomorrow. No club, no cons, and we will talk nothing but nice things about you for the rest of the stage. Final thoughts before we get out of here. Gentlemen, Lax, we'll start with you. Day one?
Amazing. Amazing. Absolute cinema.
You're just reusing what Ambi said now at this point.
It works.
It was a really good
We've run
day.
out of things to say. It's late. We're going to get out of here.
It was a really good day to build the storylines for all the teams. I really want to commend us on the desk. I feel like all of the storylines that we set up beforehand have all kind of came into fruition. Everything that we said was more or less on the right path. So
we ain't never tell no lie.
Okay.
was not the way I thought he was going to respond to that. Anyway, that's it for us for day one. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place for Playday number 2, another 4 best of ones. We're just going to keep hammering this thing home all the way to the next hometown major in Montreal in just a couple of months. For all of us here at the studio in Philadelphia, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
It's total calamity, total mayhem inside of the server. Out of nowhere, they find their round back into their favor.
Holding up for the blood, the wait! And I think he might just find it!
Tulips in a twist. Hand up boss like communist. No, I can never ever get back all the things I missed. But I'm that man that think you got the gist. Got your tulips in a twist.